Bugging device has reportedly been found in Eskom CEO André Ruyter's car. It's claimed the sophisticated device had Bluetooth cell phone connectivity, meaning his private conversations may have been heard. Well, we're joined now by the Institute of Security Studies, Jakkie Cilliers. Jakkie, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. What do we know about devices of this nature and what exactly they do?
Well, the press reports that I've seen seem to indicate that this is quite a sophisticated device, and what is quite concerning is the reports by the company run by former National Police Commissioner George Fivers that indicated that this was a device that is typically only available and used by national intelligence agencies. Very sophisticated, allows apparently for the transmission of recordings and what it finds out over something like 5 kilometers. So one is very concerned. Where does this come from? Who planted this device? And this comes within a matter of days after a report was released on the extent of organized crime in South Africa, which paints a devastating picture. And of course, that all comes against the background of a series of reports on what's happening or is not happening in the intelligence community.
It's interesting because on the question of organized crime, the link has been made between the levels of organized crime at Eskom and why it is that somebody like its CEO would be a target in this instance.
Well, I guess there are two explanations, maybe three. The first benign explanation, we know that Mr. Ruyter has called in the state security agencies to try and assist in countering organized crime. And maybe as part of that effort, they also monitoring his activities, because obviously nobody is beyond reproach, and so that's one explanation. A second explanation is that this is part of the internal fight within the ANC between the RAT faction and others, and we see repeated reports about sabotage at Eskom stations. Again, recently there was another incident, and there's a deliberate effort, I guess, to try and embarrass government, to try and embarrass the Ruyter and Eskom, to make, in a sense, it clear that the Ramaphosa faction has been unable to govern effectively. And the third explanation is the explanation about organized crime syndicates, that this is a bona fide mafia-type activity. So I would guess those are the three possible explanations that one can come up with.
How worried do you think then that the Eskom CEO should be about what has been found out here? And I suppose that extends then also to the rest of the South African public, because this remains an entity that is vital for the functioning of this country.
Well, I think anybody who is in senior management within the National Prosecuting Authority, the Hawks, or the police, even the military, probably suspects that his or her phone and other events are being bugged. We have seen that the intelligence community is in utter chaos, that the state is penetrated with organized crime, crime elements, and there is very little consequence management that is happening. So I don't think that Mr. Ruyter was that surprised. I think he sort of expects this kind of thing to happen, and there is intense pressure on him, and of course large factions within the ANC and organized crime elements want to get rid of him, because he is proving to be quite tenacious when it comes to trying to root out corruption and organized crime as it affects Eskom.
What do you think must happen now?
Well, the investigation must obviously take its course, but greater vigilance must be exercised. But I think what concerns me is that probably in the public eye, eyes of concern are directed at the intelligence community, and we have not seen enough reform or reportage on real substantive turnaround within the State Security Agency, within military intelligence, and within crime intelligence. That needs to be addressed. And I think that we need a bit more transparency, a bit more communication on what's happening there. And then we need to know what government is doing about the scourge of organized crime. The report I'm referring to paints a devastating picture of South Africa. You know, as I've often said before, many of these problems are basic management problems. They are not technological or money problems. The police, for example, and the intelligence agencies have probably too much money. It's not a resource issue. It really is very much a management issue. Now, we know that the National Commissioner is embarking on a slow and a steady process to try and turn the police around. But as I've said, on the other agencies, we don't really have much visibility.
Institute of Security Studies, Jakkie Cilliers. Jakkie, will certainly leave it there for now. And of course, the questions that this raises is, are there other executives whose movements, whose conversations are possibly being tracked? What does it mean, again, for the new board that has just been installed at the power utility? Undoubtedly, all a part of the stories that will continue to follow for you throughout the week.